Chiudo qua. Oh. Okay. Dimmi Elena, scusa.
Mi sentite, sì?
Sì, perfetto, perfetto. Okay, so good afternoon. This is the third Sport International Politics in Europe international seminar that we are doing in this class. Our guest is Elena Pantaleo. She is an athlete, a top level athlete. She worked in the clerk office for Cassazione, which is the Italian highest court. And then she also has recently completed a master in geopolitical studies. She's an athlete representative in the Italian Olympic Committee, so she's also a sport official. But from our perspective, what we want to hear from her is her athlete experience. No? In this course, we have analyzed from various points of view the link between sport and international politics, and it's very interesting. It's a very great opportunity to listen directly from an athlete, their perspective. And I think having with us Elena Pantaleo is a great opportunity. As we are going to do, as we have already done with previous guests, we will have a final debate, so you can ask all the type of questions you want to Elena Pantaleo, but this time during our dialogue, if you think that you have a question that is related to what we are discussing, feel free to raise your hand and ask the question. Let's just try from one that is in the down in the class, say something. So let's see if Elena can hear, listen to you.
Can you hear me?
Not that much. Okay, so probably for the question you have to because this room is big, is larger than the one we used to have. We had in the previous seminars. Anyway, you raise your hand, and maybe I repeat the question, or you came here and ask. So I think we can start our discussion. Thank you, Elena, again for being here.
Thank you very much.
And we can say that then I will move the camera so you can see the student and not only me. That so I can say your palmarès speak for yourself because you have won world championship title, European championship title. The last was a couple of weeks ago, a couple of days ago, no?
Yeah. From Turkey for the last European title, which is the 5th, actually 3 days ago. So yeah, it's super fresh.
Okay, 3 days ago. You can listen well because you have, okay, perfect. So 3 days ago you won your European title. However, unfortunately, in a country like Italy, which is focused almost only on football and non-Olympic sport, have very little visibility. I think that to start and to present yourself, to present your history and your career as athlete, will be also nice if you can describe how international kickboxing competition are developed, but in general, we would like to know how you became a top-level athlete and what are the challenges of being a top-level athlete in kickboxing.
Of course. So I'll tell you hi everyone, but I can see you, but still hi everyone. So okay, I can see you. Hi everyone. So my name is Elena Pantaleo, and obviously you don't know me, but don't worry, it's very, very normal. So, as the teacher said, I'm a kickboxing athlete, and kickboxing, so it's a sport that involves kicks and punches, and it has different disciplines. So it's like swimming, right? You don't only swim; you have different types of swimming, and at the same in the same kind of thing, kickboxing is divided into different disciplines. So my discipline is point fighting, which is quite close to fencing if you want to think about it, because whenever we make a point, the uh, the times stops running. We go back in our place and then we start again. So it's not like boxing where you have like you keep doing punches, right? We stop. So it's very focused on being very fast. Very fast is super strategic as a sport. So obviously you have to put all your mind and all your physical energy to it. So I started training when I was 12, and since there I almost never stop, apart from a little like 1 year for the COVID. And well, how I became a fighter, I would say I spent most of my teenage life training. I used to train also maybe 3 times a day. Now for the European preparation, I trained twice a day, so once in the morning and once in the evening. The main difference between me and any athlete that goes to the Olympics, because my sport is not a sport that goes to the Olympics, is that I'm not a part of any military force. So this doesn't happen all around the world, but in Italy, there is a kind of welfare for the elite athletes. So if you are a part of a sport that goes to the Olympics, you can be part of the army or navy or different kind of police forces, so that you actually go to live in a campus and you can only train and do competition, and the government gives you money for that. So you are an athlete, 100% an athlete. Um, I never had the chance to do that, but I think that that was a really good thing for me, because through my kickboxing career, I could keep on studying. So I went to the classic high school, then I went to study law. I graduated with the maximum degree, and now I just finished a geopolitical master and work the highest court in Italy. So I think this dual career, which is the name of the career of an athlete that goes to train but at the same time studies, this dual career is somehow what makes me special, if I'm special in any way, because that makes me an athlete that comprehends that understands the laws and the rules that underlies the sport government, which is very hard actually to understand. It's very confusing even with the people working with it. So it's not well, it's not easy at all. So during my career as an athlete, I won different titles, and the last one was the European Championship, which I did a few days ago. But the most important event of my career probably will arrive next year, which is very interesting with all the dust that is happening on Qatar and the things that we will comment right now, because my federation in an international level is called the is the World Association of Kickboxing Organization, and now it's becoming more and more important in the environment of sport. So that means that we are accessing some international competitions, which are very high level competition. So under the Olympics, there are some big international competitions which are as important as the Olympics if you're a sport that doesn't go to the Olympics. So these big competition, the most of them right now are being held in those authoritarian countries like Qatar or Saudi Arabia. So my next important competition will be probably the World Combat Games, which are going to be held in Saudi Arabia the next year. And this is very fun because it's putting me in the position. Obviously, I'm not Cristiano Ronaldo, I'm not Messi, but I will have to decide between the glory, because my sport, as I already said, is not going to pay me anything, even if I win everything. I could never live only relying on that. So I will put on a plate glory, and on a plate the fact that I don't feel it's right to go to compete in an authoritarian state, and that it graduate the values of the sport I'm doing. So, well, I think it's going to be an interesting year for my federation, and it's going to be interesting times for all the athletes for sure.
Thanks, Elena. Before coming back to this topic, that I think it's very interesting because the students are on a weekly basis analyzing the debate in the European press regarding the political intersection with the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar. I would like to ask you first one thing. You have described the environment of international kickboxing, but for you personally, what does it mean representing Italy in an international stage, and what's the difference when you compete for Italy, if there is any, when you compete for Italy or when you compete for the club or in a lower competition?
Well, it's totally different. I think so. I think for any athlete, is the greatest of honor of all to wear the Italian suit. So I have an amazing sponsor that gives me the most beautiful suits. It's an American one, so he pays me to travel all over the world, and I really love my sponsor, and we always be thankful. But nothing can be compared to wear that blue suit and being part of the Italian team. So I think the big difference, yeah, you're proud, so that's important. But probably the biggest difference is on how free you are wearing that. Obviously, representing your country is a big honor and comes with the duties. So a normal competition usually takes a couple days, maybe 3 days. But when we compete for our country, so only in the European Championships and World Championship, we are often away for 10 days. And in that 10 days, so since the moment we are at the airport in Italy all together to the moment we come back, we are representing our country. We know we're representing our country. So we cannot in any way drink. We definitely cannot smoke. We cannot go to have a party. Sometimes you lose in a competition because so the structure of a competition in kickboxing is that you do one match every day. So if you are good, then you fight all the week. But you can maybe lose in your first match, and then you have a week of holiday. We can say that, because you're not gonna fight again in that week, and you have to watch all your friends that are keeping fighting that didn't lose, but you lost. So the only thing you want to do, trust me, is like get drunk and forget the reason we are in that country, because you trained so much to reach that moment and you just gave it away. But you cannot, because you represent your country. So you have to sustain your friends. You have to be decent always at all time, and you can be professional as a pro athlete can be. So this always this clearly is different. I mean, it depends on the sport you do. So the more important the sport is, the more important the competition is, the more you have rules to follow. But yeah, I would say that for everyone, when you're taking on the national suit, you know you're representing your country. So any problem that you make is not a problem only for you and maybe your parents, but it's a problem for the coach, the president of the federation, all the delegation, and you can also put in trouble your friends, your teammates, because if you do something very bad, also in the competition, there could be sanctions, not only to you but also to your friends. So you have to put a lot of attention in everything you're doing, everything you're saying. You can be show any kind of anger, or be racist, or be homophobic. I mean, this is what means be decent people. So people should always do that. I mean, if you really feel the need to do that, you can never do that in the national suit, because you are always representing the best part of your country. Obviously, the other side of this is that sometimes when you want to speak out about things that you don't agree with, that your federation is doing or that your country is doing, then since you have a voice which is heard, then you're in a very difficult position, because you want to speak out about the things you care about, but on the other side, you know that your voice is a voice of someone, of anyone, but it's a voice of an athlete of the national team. So this is giving many more problems than if you were a normal person, I would say so.
Well, we are definitely come back to this point, but I just want to ask one more thing, because you highlight one paradox, that you are a fully amateur athlete for the federation, but they ask you to have a kind of professional behavior when you are in the international stage. So this is already quite a significant paradox. How you said also, and I think it's true, that the fact that you are not a military athlete led you to a lot of different opportunity, but because you look for this opportunity, because otherwise from an economic point of view is also difficult. So how you and your colleague deal with the fact that they ask you in order to have in order to win or to be competitive, you need to have a professional attitude, but then you are not paid, or you have very little income coming from your sport activity?
Well, it's hard. It's hard. Also because being a professional, many people think that being professional mean only to go to trainings. Go to train is the easiest part. It's the fun part. Seriously, if you don't like to go to train, then change your sport, because you're not doing what's good for you in life. The hard part is everything that's around. So is all the sport setbacks, anytime you hurt yourself and you have to pay a lot for the doctors to cure you. Every time you have to you move from a city to another, and you have to find a new trainer, like a new physical trainer, a new mental coach, and that's hard, because the federation doesn't give you the structures to train all the year around. If you don't have a rich family to support you, it's really, really, really hard to be a professional athlete. So but this is the bad part, right? That's why it's difficult. But there is also a good part. So I think that not being a professional athlete, so in the legal way, so not being someone that lives in the athlete center, someone that only trains to live, really gives you the opportunity, the possibility, also the need to look for other jobs. So that's what gave me the possibility to study. And now I have a total different perspective on the world, because I developed as a human, because studying makes you develop as a human. And I think also is a real big difference that I see the top athletes at, we can call the A level of sport, and the top athletes at B. So in the B level of sport, we can put all those federations where being a top athlete doesn't help you to survive in the real world. All these people me, my national team friends, and also from other sports, most of the sports actually in Italy, and I think all over the world. This give you the time and the need, and so the will to study, and you have to survive. So what does it mean? That most of the people will try to be coaches, will try to get a degree maybe in physical science or something like that. But there are many other people that we study maybe economics or medicine. So a very close friend of mine, he's in the national team since I was in the national team, and he's a doctor right now. So he graduated and did all his specialization through the year of the national team. And I think that's amazing, because that really levels up the conversation while we are all there, while we are at the competition. And also, I think it opens the space for the athletes to really be part of the board, of the heads, of those people who really take the decision that then are going to rule the athletes' world, that are often taken by people who are not athletes, because those are the people who really had the time to study. But if you find time to go, then I think you can really change the world of sport, the world of sport, and you can arrive to a really new level. And as an athlete, you can really be considered as a stakeholder.
Thank you. Tomorrow, I'm going to show you a video of the captain of the US main football team that in somehow shows what Elena Pantaleo is saying now, because he answered to a journalist question in a very mature way. And so this is important, that an athlete can be prepared to answer any type of question. So let's now arrive to the topic that you already introduced twice, and I sort of avoid, but it's the topic that I really want to analyze with you more in detail. So what happened when you as an athlete, you perceive that, let's say, your sport activity is being politicized, like in a top-down level or more in general? Can you tell us some episode in which your career has intersected with the domain of international politics or politics in general?
Well, I will try to speak without compromising myself too much.
So if you compromise something, we cut or we don't put a diamond, so no problem.
So yeah, so there was one episode which I think it was very important in my career, because on one side it really harmed my whole sport career, but on this other side it was a boost on my political career, I would say, because I'm a part of the National Olympic Committee, and that's a kind of political role because I represent the athletes. So what happened is that in 2018 I had the last European Championship before this one, because there was the COVID in 2020, so we didn't have it. It's every 2 years, so 2018 was the last. I was in Maribor, and during the opening ceremony, we had this. We were asked to stand up and make 1 minute of silence for our president. That was that had died something like 1 week before or 1 month before, something like that. So me, a fresh 22 years old, studying law, just went on Google and I Googled the president, because I wanted to know who he was. I mean, I have to stand up for you. I want to know what you did in your life. So what I discovered is that this my ex-president, so the ex-president of my federation, unfortunately, was the president of a ultranationalist party in Serbia, and before that was the second commander of the Arkan Tigers. So the Arkan Tigers, I don't know if you know what they are, but they were confirmed by the international International Criminal Court to be the perpetrator of the Srebrenica genocide, to kill like tens of thousands of people in the Yugoslavia war. So that was a shock for me, seriously a shock, because as an athlete, I believe in all those motto, you know, like stronger together and Altius, Sitius, and Fortier. And I really think that the values of the sport, being part of international community, and to fight on the tatami, fight on the mat, but never out of the mat. I mean, I really believe in those things that for many are like pointless words, but for me, it's everything, right? For me, it's my life. And thanks to the sport, I had the opportunity, the amazing opportunity to live since I were very young in an international, big international community in which I always felt very safe. So what I did is, from my little point of view, was making a huge post on Facebook with reporting all the sentences from the International Criminal Court, which were this army that he was ruling. So what happened then was there were a couple of crazy days, like the whole week was kind of crazy, because what happened was that on one side, my friends from the national team and also the president of my own federation, the Italian federation, they were totally supportive. So obviously they tried to convince me that to put out the post was the best thing for the federation, for the international federation, also because right now we are considered by the international the Olympic International Committee a Olympic sport. So just step back. You are Olympic sport if the International Olympic Committee say that you have all the points, all the that be a sport going to the Olympics. But then to go to the Olympics, there is another step that that has to be done. So you can be an Olympic sport and not going to the Olympics. Okay. So in that period, the International Olympic Committee was evaluating my international federation to say if kickboxing could ever go to the Olympics. So if we can be considered an Olympic sport or not. And what I was said by the president in that moment, so the vice president that became president when the one before died, was that posting this kind of stuff, I'm putting all the Olympic recognition at risk, and that I should put it out, should remove it, or I could be excluded from the competition, or they could even give me a sanction of 1 year exclusion from all the competition. So I was very, very angry for that, and I didn't remove my post. In the end, my president did an incredible action of mediation with the international president, so I wasn't sanctioned in any way. But I will never forget that the girl which I beat in the final was the one which was given the Best Fighter award, which is very weird if you think so, like a second place that get the Best Fighter award, but I don't care. So in that particular situation, what happened is that I have actually to put like my values, what I believe it was the right thing to say on one side, and on the other side, the sanction not only to me, but maybe to my friends of the national team, and that is what really put me in doubt of what to do. I mean, if they really support me in that case, but if they had tell me something like, Elena, you have to remove your post because I trained so hard to be here and I don't want to be sanctioned just because of you. I mean, they would be right, you know. So, and also the federation of the president of my federation also show his support to me. But on the other side, if he had told me something like, Elena, you have to remove it because if you don't remove it, then you will never have a career in the Olympic Committee or something like that. Then also there is on one side my values, and on the other side all these really concrete things. So the participation at the competition or future career in the sport world. And no, when it's like that, I mean, if you have the support of your friends and your boards, then it's really easy to be to follow your values. But if your friends of the national team or of the boards really contrast you, then it's really hard to put values, which are words, right, in front of everything. So that was something really fun that happened to me.
No, thank you very much for this episode, because also it can be related to what we have analyzed, speaking about athlete activism. The role of social media, that is new, no? You remember we discussed about it. And also this aspect that Elena Pantaleo, she was reacting to a political decision. She was not her that was politicizing the sports arena, because the first political act is the minute of silence of a president that is a war criminal. No? Okay, so there are two. Is a reaction, not a first step. Is what we discussed when we spoke about national anthems or the political use of national anthems. The fact that you play the national anthem is a political decision, especially on national level, but also at international level. Okay. So just okay. Now it was just to link what you were saying to our discussion in previous lesson. Was this the only episode, or you can think of other situation, maybe different, maybe less significant, but still that you can share?
You know, it's hard because everything, I know it can sound weird, but when you put attention on it, I mean, when you are focused on the details, everything you do in a big competition is linked to politics. So I remember, like, once in my federation, I mean, what happened was that there were these two girls that were fighting for the world title, and one of these two had a really bad injury to the ankle, so she couldn't end the match. And she was half the point. She was going to win the match. She's one of the best athletes in the kickboxing world. She won 10 world championship. She's from Hungary, but she hurt herself, so she couldn't finish the match. And from the rules, you have to make the one that is still able to fight to win. These other girls was an Italian girl. So this Italian girl, she started crying and she was very happy because she thought she won. But what happened later? Spoiler: at the end, she actually got the title. But what happened later is that the president of my federation, with the president of the Hungarian federation, they asked her to share the title. Okay, so we were right after the Olympics, so I'm sure they got their inspiration from Tamberi that divided his gold, and they both won. But actually, so what's the point? On one side was the president of the Italian Federation, who was rooting for his own will to have a better relationship with the president of the Hungarian Federation. I mean, you shell one gold of your athlete, then you have one favor that will return back to you at one point. On the other hand, there was this girl, Italian girl. She never won any title, and she really, really, really didn't want to share the gold. But so they tried to pressure her quite a lot. But at the end, she was gonna retire, so she didn't really care about staying in that world for many years. She didn't care, so she didn't accept that. But the fact that the politics, the sport politics itself came so inside the competition that they asked a girl to split her gold with another one. really surprised me, because before that was, I think, 2019, something like that. I mean, I wasn't so aware of how much of politics there is in everything you do. So another example can be, this year we were in Turkey. I mean, a couple of weeks ago we were in Turkey fighting, and there were many national teams which were not really happy with the food we were having. I mean, we didn't have enough fruit and vegetables, and if you have to survive 10 days competing, you really have to eat the best things ever. So the point is that many of the national teams didn't have enough food, and the Turkish federation really didn't do a lot of things. The things maybe could be done, maybe could not. I don't know. To speak with to organize better the food for us. So what happens is that as a federation, you wanna be liked. As a president of the federation, of a board of a federation, you want the other countries, the other boards, to like you, to have good relationship with you. So you cannot spend all your time complaining. On the other side, the athletes are really don't really have a voice. So I can complain on Facebook, on Instagram, but I mean, only my friends, my mother, my father are gonna listen to me. I don't think I have this voice. I'm not Cristiano Ronaldo. So how is this politics? Because on one hand, if you do the best for your athletes, then you can for sure, or if the other athletes will be able to organize and unionize, then maybe there will be some protests, like make us eat good things. On the other side, I know for sure that if the next year the Turkish government or the Turkish organization pay enough, then we will all forget about this 10 days of starving. So this is exactly the politics of sport, because you think that all the events are made for you as an athlete, that you are the center of everything. Well, actually, the federation and their commercial interests are the center of everything, and you have to adapt. And if you are lucky enough to be in a rich federation, or to have a federation which is really recognized strong and international level, then you will be treated right. But if you're not so lucky, then so and so. Also, I want to underline one thing about the episode in Maribor, the post I did in Slovenia. So I think we have to focus on one thing. If you have to rely only on the sport to survive, if you see yourself only as an athlete, if your whole personality is concentrated in the fact that you are an athlete, that you represent your country, that you represent your sponsor, you don't have a voice. Because every time you speak up for things that they don't approve, you're going to lose your position. And if your position the only things that represents you, then you lose yourself, you lose everything. So what gives me the freedom to speak out against or I don't know, can you speak out against someone that is dead? Probably no. I speak out and that's it. If I could speak out, it's only because I'm not in a A-level sport. I'm in that B-level sport. So my personality, my life, and me as a human being means a lot of things. I like to travel, I like to study, I like to read, and I love to train. But it's only a part of my personality. So if I only had to rely on being an athlete to survive, I could not speak out about these things. And it is really important to underline, because I think in the public debate, a lot of people seem to think that athletes really have this huge power, really have this huge money. We are not only like Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi. Most of the athletes, once they stop to be an athlete, they have to train in order to survive, and that's probably the only chance to get a job. So in that case, you really want to be considered as a top level athlete, as an athlete that your sponsor, your country, your team can trust. And the fact that they can trust you also means that you won't say everything that passes on your mind, but you will choose the fights that you want to fight, or maybe you fight nothing. You will only be an athlete without any political concerns. That's it.
I think that this consideration on how athletes live professional athletes can be useful also in your records, no? The press asking something, but then the athletes have to deal with their national federation, with sponsorship, and there are all considerations that they have to do. Elena, do you think, do you share these ideas with your colleague? There is a debate in the world of kickboxing, or in the Italian kickboxing, or in world kickboxing about these topics, or when there are competition, you are focused on competition and then you don't have enough time to discuss about other aspects.
Yeah, I think it's clear. I mean, if you're an athlete, it's if you're a kid, you don't care, and if you are an adult, you are an athlete, and you also have to have a job, and you also have to run your house and to cook and to clean. So I think it's very clear that most of the time athletes don't care. I feel like that's tragic, because I feel that's tragic if anyone everywhere in the world don't care what's happening around. I mean, you're students of science relationship, like that, international relations. So you can understand me. I mean, you follow the news, you look on the internet when you're curious, you look for stuff. And so I find it tragic when I see that there are many young people in the world, my friends, that don't really care about it. But on the other side, how can you blame them? I mean, when you're an athlete, your stress level is so high, you probably spend like 1 day every 2 crying, because you are not on that top level you expect from yourself. You have to spend a lot of energies on sleep enough and cook the right things and go to train. And often to train, when you go to train when you are a top level athlete, you cannot train in the gym that is in your neighbor. You have to take the train or the bus. I mean, I take 3 different, I take a 1 metro, 1 train, and a car to go to train. It's 1 hour and a half. So many people don't have the time, cannot really think about these political issues. So most of the time, my friends, which I underline, I love them very much, but my friends think that I'm too much, that I shouldn't be concerned about these political things. I think that no one of them is thinking about Saudi Arabia as a problem. That the competition be held in that country is a problem. Why? Because they're focused on training. They invest all their life training, and they don't really care. So the problem is that when you are trained so much, it's really easy to be manipulated from the federation that act like a corporation, like big corporation. It's really easy to be manipulated even from the Olympic movement, and then you are, without even knowing it, a part of this big cynical marketing plan, which gives the athlete the role of being testimonials of authoritarian countries. So yeah, I would say that my former athletes friends really don't care about this. And this also gives you a perspective, the right perspective, on why athletes are out of the center of the power in the sports world. Because on one side, they're not given the power to be in, but on the other side, they are too focused on their sport career, interested in getting involved. So I think it's a 50-50. They have to blame 50-50%. And but we have to radically change all of this. I really believe athletes should be in power, and that's it.
And to be fair, if we look at the the athletes' presence in the sports institution in the last 20 years, 15 years, the situation is improving. Maybe, as you can tell us, that they formally they are a presence, then their voice is not enough, no, in the committee, in national or international committees. But the situation, we can say, is slowly improving, and I think the presence of former athletes, the more and more in international sports institutions such as the International Olympic Committee in particular, is slowly changing the IOC as well, but they are a long process. Before asking something on Saudi Arabia, while you are saying that your colleagues are not dealing enough, in your opinion, with the political issue, sometimes political issue arrive and athletes just have to deal with. For example, we have discussed with the students the impact of the Russian invasion on Ukraine in international sport. So I would like to know what was the impact in the world of kickboxing, the experience that you share with Ukrainian and Russian athletes, and so on, as you want.
Yeah, so the bans of the Russian and Belarusian athletes for the kickboxing world was tragic, seriously tragic, because kickboxing is a sport which is very important to Russia. So the direct impact on our world was that many competition, many of them held in Europe or in Italy, because Italy, our teams are very friends, are very close with the Russian teams. We had one coach, an important team in Italy that was also the national coach of Russia. So you can see how the relationship within these two countries are very close. And yeah, what's happening is that after the COVID crisis, it's very hard to have the money to organize a competition, because for a competition you need really a lot of money. Now with the gas prices going up, it's even harder. So if you add to that the fact that a lot of athletes cannot compete, so that you have like 100, 200 Russian coming, or and 50 Belarusian athletes. I mean, if you take away from 1,000, 2,000 athletes competition, maybe 300, because you're excluding two very important countries. Well, for the organizator of the competition, it's very hard to organize. So this year was the year in which we had less competition ever. We had a three main competition instead of 7, something like that. And then also the European Championship, many categories that usually get win by Russian champions were won by other people, obviously. I mean, this is getting all the level of the sport is going down, because we are losing very strong opponents. We are losing also the chance to train together, going from a country to another one. So it's really hard, because I thought many friends of mine are not interested in politics. Obviously, as many of you probably heard this period, if you're not interested in politics, well, politics is still interested in you. So I feel that as an athlete, I should have done something, because I really feel that this kind of draconian sanction where Russia bombs Ukraine, and so we exclude all the Russian athletes from participation, is one of the worst choices of the International Olympic Committee. And because I think it's again any motto of sports or any value of sports. And also the Olympic Committee itself in the past And I can give an example: the 2012 Olympics in London, where there was some Algerian students, athletes that didn't want to compete against the Israeli opponents. And in that situation, the Olympic Committee said that no political issues, no wars should be bring to the Olympics. Now it's almost 1 year that all the Russian athletes are banned from the competition. And it's terrible also because, I mean, what do we expect from these people? We expect them to be so hungry at their government that they then go to, I don't know, they go to protest and they get arrested. Will they do that? I mean, will they get arrested just to protest against my own country? I don't know. I mean, I think we expect too much from athletes that are definitely not responsible from their government, and also probably we think that Putin cares really too much about his athletes, and so that the ban from the competition could, that he could care about it, while clearly he doesn't care about it. So I don't know. I feel that this was a big mistake from the International Olympic Committee. But on the other side, did I say something? No, I didn't say anything. Did I made a post? No, because I could say on Facebook, on Instagram, like I'm against this and that, and then my federation, my sponsor maybe, that is American, they could tell me, yeah, okay, so you are still a Russian, you cannot write this thing, there is a war, and I would, like that, lose all the possibility to travel for the competition, and maybe by placing the national team. I don't think that will happen, but it's a possibility, right? So in that case, I feel like no one of us did anything, even if we know how unfair it is for our friends, because they are friends in Russia, to not compete, to lose years and years and years of training and not be able to compete at the European World Championship. And at the same time, all of us, we are not improving, because only with other strong athletes you can improve. And when there is a nation that is always, Russia always wins the total of the medals. They always win that. When you take the strongest nation from a sport, obviously you have many people who would have never won to win, and that's a good thing. But on the other side, you are killing that sport. You're not making people improve, and that's only sad. So yeah, but still I didn't do anything, so I cannot complain. And me and my friends of the other Olympic Committee, we couldn't have a say, because we cannot we don't have that kind of power that I can use my position as a representative of athletes in the National Olympic Committee to go against the International Olympic Committee. So you can see, like, your role as an athlete is really confined in the lines of what targets, what arguments, what are the best interests of the International Olympic Committee or your National Olympic Committee. You're not free to speak about anything.
Do you have any questions at the moment? No, because I'm asking because we have of course discussed on the all point of view. We also had a Ukrainian sport historian that came and discussed with, of course, a different point of view, and this is interesting also not to see. You are listening to an athlete perspective and saying it's good to fight with the top level, and without the best athletes, a sport can die. And looking back in history, for example, when in various international sports federation was discussing the possibility that Italy was excluded after World War II in fencing, when the Italian fencers were one of the three main powers, Italy was not excluded because otherwise the international competition would have die. So being a power in a certain sport is also important from this type of perspective. Anyway, and also we discuss the fact that we can, if we want, we can analyze these aspects from an ethical perspective, but in the end, this exclusion was simply due to a matter of power, because there was a majority of federation that threatened to boycott the international arena. The IOC was almost obliged to take this decision. But it's very, very interesting what Elena Pantaleo is saying, because it gives us another type of perspective. And speaking about this, you mentioned now that you are going to Saudi Arabia, and this is not neutral, for you. And again, if we go back to this aspect of power and international politics from from an Italian perspective, Saudi Arabia is an ally. So from an international perspective, is not problematic, because Saudi Arabia is an ally. We are not in a war against Saudi Arabia. A lot of people do business with Saudi Arabia without any type of problem. We sell weapons to Saudi Arabia. We buy oil from Saudi Arabia, same as gas from Qatar, and this is not an issue. It became an issue when sport is involved, because of this value, that sport is somehow said to promote, and then it becomes a problem individually. If for someone can decide not to do business with a country, not to travel with a country, not playing sport in a country. But when there is an international competition, and as you has explained to us, is the most important competition after behind the World Championship, from an athlete perspective, is a big opportunity going there and fight and compete. So tell us what are you thinking about this problem opportunity that is next, is your next big event coming for you?
It's a chaos. I think luckily I have 1 year to think about it, because the competition is going to be in October. But it's very hard for me. Also, it will be probably interesting to analyze if it's easier or harder when you don't have money involved. Because on one side, I could tell you, well, probably for a person that is losing 10, 20, 30 millions euros not going, it's very hard, because, I mean, money gives you the power of doing a lot of things and buy you happiness sometimes. But I mean, doing it only for the glory, right? I mean, the glory. What does it mean? It means that you have this memory of your win, that maybe your sport people will remember you, that maybe the people that are close to you will remember you. But apart from that, I mean, does it really matters? Well, probably if you spend all your life training to reach that one goal, well, that glory really matters, because it's more than a memory. Probably it's the end of a path that you start doing when you were like 12 or 10, and it's the dream of your life. But well, yeah, on the other side, there is the fact that these authoritarian countries are using you as an influencer. I mean, I will go there, I will post my picture of me in Saudi Arabia, and even, as I said, I'm not Cristiano Ronaldo, so I don't have a million people following me. Even only my family coming to see me, or my boyfriend, or the picture that I will post, that will make me think that I'm cohabitating, I'm helping this country to wash its image, to focus on the fact that Saudi Arabia is not the country that bombed Yemen and keep bombing Yemen and kill people. But Saudi Arabia is that beautiful country when they did the World Combat Games. So yeah, it's very hard because I don't want to be used. I don't want to be used by anyone. I don't want to be used. I mean, I feel very independent, probably because I have this. I study law. I want to be prosecutor for the most of my life. Now I like politics, but well, I always seen myself in roles where I can have my independence, right? Where I can speak out about my stuff. And the fact that going there, I mean, if I go there and I start to protest there, I will probably be arrested there. So yeah, that's not an option. On the other side, if I go there, I know that I will always, forever and ever lose the ability, the possibility to complain about the athlete who don't oblige to their moral obligation. On the other side, as I said before, do we really have those moral obligation? I mean, me or neither other athletes were ever involved in the decision to have our World Combat Games there, even Qatar. I mean, all of the people that in 2010 decided that the World Championship was gonna be in Qatar, they're probably being like arrested or um, or prosecuted. I mean, for corruption. So do the footballer have to stand against it? There should be other people, other people more powerful, who have more voice, who are more knowledge. And yeah, so this is gonna be really a problem for me. I'm gonna think about it all the next year. But for me, the fact that I want to be always coherent with my values, with myself, is more important than winning another world championship. So yeah, I prefer them to be held in I don't know, Peru or Australia or Kazakhstan or whatever. But yeah, for me it's really a problem to go in Saudi Arabia. So I would say that I will probably not go, but yeah, I will probably change my mind still other 300 times in this year. So we'll see. But it's hard. It would be far much better if the athlete could be involved in any way, any kind of votation in where these events are held. But truth is that the international federation acts like corporate, like big corporate. So they follow the money and not the rights and needs or the will of the athletes.
So maybe from this point of view, would be interesting also to raise this point to the international federation and ask for, in general, not only in the world of kickboxing, but it's a good idea to have like some athletes, some responsible of the athletes that are involved in the votes for bidding. I don't think, maybe I'm mistaken, but I don't think there is any federation that involve the athletes in the bidding processes. Okay. Do you have any type of question that you want to ask? Then I have already potential other 10, 20 questions, but I think it's important that you take advantage of this opportunity and ask also, like, not considering what we have discussed in previous lesson, or just even if you have some curiosity, it's not necessary on the link between sport and politics, but can involve also the life of a top level athlete. So, questions? Yeah.
Hi, I wanted to ask you, what's your stance on what the ideal supporter should do to support their athletes? Should they expect the athletes to behave in certain ways? Do these matter or not? Or should supporters just pretend, expect from athletes to be the ideal sport and stuff without asking them to take political stances or whatever?
So supporters means as a sponsor.
From our perspective in this case, because you are an athlete, you may have supporters.
You have supporters in sponsor or people
who
spectators?
Fans, people.
Fans and spectators.
Yes.
Well, Okay, the point is that since 10, 15, 20 years ago, as an athlete, your voice was the voice of the press office of your federation. Okay, so right now there is a huge change, there is a huge shift in the power, because before a sponsor will reach you only from your federation, and the supporter will reach you only through the television and what the main media will show, right? Right now we have a huge shift of power because of social media. So Instagram, Facebook are really giving athletes a voice. So what does it mean? That as a voice, having a voice, being a model, people expect from you things. I mean, people expect you to take a stand, and not only not only the sponsor, not only the people who pay you, that actually prefer you not to take a stand against anything, only pro things, not against things. But yeah, also the fans and the people who support you or the people that follow you. I mean, still, I want to underline that being an athlete of a top level, but always in a federation that is not important as football or basket or anything. I think it's very important to underline that all my fans are inside the kickboxing federation. Okay, but still, yes, many people follow you and they expect you to take a stand against or pro something. So to support Ukraine, to support the day against the violence on women, to take a stand against Russia or against this or against that. What's the problem? The problem is that if you do it on a really superficial level, it's very easy. You post your white card, you post your black image for the Black Lives Matter, but then if you surf all these trends, then where is your moral integrity? I mean, you're doing that only for the likes, only for the views, only to be shared. On the other side, if you really want to be true to yourself and then to study the things, then the people will expect probably for you to take a stand in a more significant way. But again, if you're an athlete, you don't always have the time or the need or the will to go really deep in the things you want to say, really discuss it, really studying them. And it's really hard to make a constructive opinion if you don't study stuff. So it's not easy to say how, like, if I understand the question, how an athlete should relate himself with the people expecting stuff. But because then any athlete, now the athletes really are in power of their voice. So they can freely speak up about anything. Because before with the press, that wasn't possible. Now with the social media, you are free to speak up about anything. But yes, I think that if people look at you as a role model, you really have to take this privilege and take it with all the duties that come from the privilege. So I think that if people expect you to be a role model, look at you as a role model, then you really have to act like a role model. And that doesn't only mean if you drink or if you smoke. That also mean to be able to speak up and stand up for the things that you really think are important. Also against what are the thought of your supporter. I mean, just be true to yourself, and if you're true to yourself, then you probably be proud of it. But I don't know if I came out of the path of the question. I probably lose myself. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much for that. Very clear.
Okay, there was another question.
Yeah, hello. I hope you can hear me well. I just wanted to ask, do you believe that someday it would be like kind of possible sport be like kind of totally separate from politics? As you said, like kind of it can be like kind of powerful. And if so,
I'm hearing you so bad. I'm hearing you. It's very confused.
okay,
Come closer now.
okay. Maybe here. Can you hear me now? Well.
See? Yeah.
Okay, so Do you believe that someday sport can be like kind of totally be separate from politics? As you said, it would be like kind of it would have power. And if so, what kind of initiative should be like kind of done, according to you?
Well, the point is, I don't think that sport will never, ever be a part of politics, and I don't really even. I don't think it's a good thing to pursue. I think it's very. Athlete sports are like the epic heroes. Okay, so athletes are like the epic heroes. They're like Hercules. They're like Medea. They are and have always been people to look up. So when you have when you have role models, you have people following, and when you have people following, you have a voice that matters. And politics is all about the voice that matters, the people, the models, the symbols. And so I think politics has always been part of the sport, also because, as I say before, everything is politics. So something that is being looked at from thousands of people around the world, thousands of millions of people around the world, it would be always be linked, closely linked to politics. And, I would be really happy about it if it actually would be I don't know if they only will say that any athletes can speak about himself. The problem right now is that we have some things that you can speak of, and other things were kind of taboo. There is propaganda. There is a lot of propaganda right now in sport, and that's the bad things. But if an athlete can vehicle, a message of peace or of environmental sustainability. That's also politics, but that's a kind of politics or that is closer to the final meaning of the sport. Okay, the bad politics. Politics should not be. Sport should not be used as propaganda. Okay, that's bad. But politics itself, politics means caring about our communities, means caring about the sport, means caring about the world or your nation. And I think the athlete really can be a vehicle of positive messages. So I don't feel that we should exclude that there is politics in the sport. Only that if you make it a vehicle of propaganda of the authoritarian countries, of if the sporting success start to operate as they were the potential to advise political objective, well, that's bad. I don't know if that was clear difference.
Thank you. Other questions? Don't be shy. Why they are thinking about the question, because there will be definitely more questions. I know that they're just a little bit shy, but I ask you one question that I'm always curious about. I always ask when I meet an athlete, I always ask this question. So how much time do you have during or after or before the competition to visit the city, the country in which the event is held?
Zero. Absolutely zero. But okay, so as I told you, I'm kind of a typical athlete, so I'm very curious of the country I visit. But yeah, usually, so when you're working full time or studying full time, you usually go to a competition on Friday, then you fight on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and you leave on Monday morning, and you usually get right at work. So you take the first plane, and then you just arrive and you go right to school or right at work, because you have so many competitions during the year that if you will spend only 1 year extra in any place you visit, then you will just lose all your week. When I was in high school, I would compete every weekend from January to June. And if you already lose every Friday and every Monday morning at school, you cannot really take an extra day. But On the other side, when I was in university, so I was not a student like you. I never ever went to university, never, because I would study at home and just go to make my exams. Then I had more free time. So after competition, I will maybe take 1 day, 2 extra days. Now in Turkish, at least I did these crazy things. I took 3 days to visit the country, and this actually never happens. So it was a kind of a crazy thing. But yeah, so the point is that when you are an athlete and you travel a lot, many people tell you, wow, you have amazing life, you travel all the time. And that's true, but you almost only visit the sports hall. You know, I've seen the sports of all the world, like from Miami to Dublin to Innsbruck to Antalya. I've seen a lot of sports hall, but unfortunately, most of the time, that's the only things you come to see. And sometimes it happens that you eat local, but also that not all the time. So yeah, the time to travel is very limited, but yeah, if you're lucky enough and you can organize where you're here after the competition season, you do like I've always did, and you take 2 3 weeks, just go explore the world, forget that you are an athlete and you are like working 24 hours a day, all the life, and you take a couple weeks for yourself to remember that you're a human being that likes to have fun like normal people. And yeah.
Okay, now we have time to think about questions. Yeah.
You mentioned that kickbox is an Olympic sport, but it's not part of the Olympics. So what does it take for a sport to enter the Olympics?
Well, that's an interesting question. Okay, see, better. That's an interesting question. So the criteria to get a new sport in the Olympic changed a lot. So I'm sure your teacher can answer you better than that. But I think the last years, the central point was that the host country, so the country that is hosting the Olympics, ask the sport. I mean, ask the Olympic Committee, obviously, to take this sport as a demonstrative sport, which is, I think, is the first step. But seriously, they change so many times the criteria. But so the point is, for sport to be Olympic, is that you have to reach a certain level. When you have many people practicing it all over the world, when it has a good reputation, you have a solid international federation, a certain number of solid national federation. After that, and after the CEO recognizes you as a potential Olympic sport, then you need the host country to say, okay, I want you. It's like, I mean, France choose to have breakdance instead of kickboxing. That's, I mean, questionable, but I mean, like Taekwondo was really lucky because it was introduced by Japan, if I'm not wrong, even if they didn't really have a number, but they are surviving inside the Olympics. And there is a certain number of sports that are allowed in the Olympics. So obviously, you can take the spot anytime the one sport is taken out. So for kickboxing, we are hoping for it to be an Olympic sport in 2028 because it's a sport that is going really great in United States, as you can imagine. So, I mean, we hope that the Olympic Committee of the United States decide to get kickboxing as a demonstrative sport or a new sport in the Olympics. But yeah, that's the step. But I suggest you look at it because on internet and have more like details answer because it's really interesting how it changed a lot. It really, when I saw it, I was amazed by that. It changed. I think they changed the criteria like 6 or 7 times. It changed a lot. So you see, it's all in I don't know, evolving. It's an evolving situation.
Thank you.
Something.
When the criteria change a lot, so when the statute and the rules change a lot, it means that there is more politics involved, and so they adapt the rules to some power forces. But
Yeah.
we will discuss about this tomorrow. Maybe I will prepare a slide. So because it's a good question, and it's interesting to go more in detail. Any more questions?
I will tell you before the question one thing that is very curious about the Italian Olympic Committee. So what you probably know is that in Italy the federation have two levels. Okay, so there are the federation, and then what are called sport discipline associates, which are still sport federation, but in a kind of B grade, right? So you have A rating and B rating. So the fun thing is that so you have a lot of rules to be considered a B rating. So if you are not a sport, then you're recognized as a sport, then the Olympic Committee recognizes your federation as a real federation. So you are a real federation now. But then there are no written rules, so there are no laws that explain you how to pass from a B-level federation to an A-level federation. And change is actually huge because the A-level federation takes somehow the 98% of all the public finances, all the public money to finance the sport. So if you are a B-grade federation, you get really the crumbles of the A-level federation. But as we said before, there are no rules. So when there are the rules or the rules change a lot or there is not a clear law that stands below the ground that you're playing, well, that means that there is a lot of politics involved, the kind of politics that is, that's my friend, that's not my friend, so I will do that because of him, and I will do that not because of that. And yeah, so that kind of politics that goes with friends and not with the laws. And I think that's really interesting, actually.
Yeah, and for Italy, again, when we discussed the fact that historically the Minister of Sport for Italy has been in the past the National Olympic Committee, this means that this type of decision also are structured to the fact that the Olympic Committee has for main goal the one to win Olympic medals. And so, as Elena Pantaleo just said, the money goes to the federation that are Olympic sport as well. Not only, there are also other criteria, but generally speaking, this is a type of generalization that is fair to do it. If there are no any more questions, just one quick comment from you. I just want to know how, because as I mentioned quite quickly, but she's athlete representative in the National Italian Committee. So what is your role? What are the decision that you have taken in this new role for you, and how do you feel doing it?
The Italian Olympic Committee is it's going to be a 4 years committee, obviously, because it's the same. We stand for the same year as the Olympic competition, right? So we're focusing more than everything on dual career. So all the projects right now we are bringing on are about speaking with the universities about the dual career, making protocols with them to let the athletes studies. Then we have some grants for the athletes which graduates at the university. And I think that are the most important projects we are having right now. But you asked me about decisions. So the point is that even if I think my role at the Athletes Commission is an amazing privilege, because he make me really stay close to the central power. I meet a lot of interesting people, really people, entrepreneurs that are really able to do their jobs. On the other side, I think that the Athletes Commission have really little power. I saw this quote yesterday, which I think that you probably know. Is a quote from professor of sport policy, Barry Hulinan, which said that so the few governing bodies of sport that do provide a voice for athletes do so either through limited membership of the body's decision-making forum or through formation of an athletes commission linked to the main forum, but quarantined from any significant decision-making opportunity. That's the point I was telling you before. So I feel that we really provide the opportunity for the athletes. So we did a first athletes forum with all the head of the national team of the single federation, and that was really important. But on the other side, when we have all the important decisions to be taken, we are seen from the rest of the organization as kids, which we actually are. Because I mean, like, I'm 26, and all the other president or which are all the president of the federation, which are the member of commission, the rest of the member of commission, they're like 6 years old, having done this job for 40 years. So we are new, we are young, and I have a degree, but most of the rest of the athlete commission doesn't have it because he's still an athlete in a top level, in an Olympic level, and he didn't really have the time to study. So the point is that, we don't really have the power to take any important decision. Obviously, our voice can be heard, but also on this, we can never take it too far away from what the International Olympic Commission or the National Olympic Commission wants us to say. But on the other side, if we had more power, we probably wouldn't know how to use it. If we had more money, would we know how to use it? Probably not, because to rule a power, to spend goods or money, you need competences. And if the athletes are only athletes, then they don't have competences. Also, I think we should focus on the fact that there is a huge lack of democratization and representation of the athletes. Because, I mean, I was chosen by the president of the other federation. I wasn't chosen by the athletes. And that's important, an important thing to focus, because if I want to be elected again, I have to please the heads of the federation, the heads of the CONI, and not the athletes. So if I represent the athletes, how can I represent them if I wasn't voted by them? And if many athletes are actually, like me 4 years ago, don't even know that an athletes commission in the Olympic Committee exists. So I mean, I feel very lucky to do what I'm doing, and there are actually some projects that we are bringing on that you can see in our internet page in the Olympic Committee, Italian Olympic Committee website. But on the other side, we could do a lot more. We could do a lot more, and we cannot do that because we don't have the power, we don't have the competencies, and we don't have the money to do that. And so, I mean, there should be a huge change inside the National Federation and International Olympic Committee, and this has to start, I think, in my opinion, from the vote. Athletes must vote for their representatives, and if other athletes don't vote for them, then the representative of the athletes will always be the people who are more close to the federation. And if the federation then don't act in the best interest of the athletes, then the athletes that represent them always will be closer to the heads of the federation instead of the athletes, because he was chosen by them, his job depends by them, and will never have also the emotional link to their former athletes.
Thank you very much for this last point. I think it's very important because of course we are dealing more with international politics in this course, but this aspect of democratization of sports institution is it's very important, even in democratic countries such as Italy. So thank you very much. I think it was a very rich conversation which offer us a lot of talking point also from a different perspective, and we touch some topics that we didn't analyze yet. So thank you very much for your time, and yeah, keep in touch, and if there are any more questions in general, I'm sure like Elena can share other aspects. If you can send us, for example, the link of the CONI page, the activities that you are doing, we are I will add on the not compulsory reading that I put in the document. But thank you again.
Feel free to contact me, share my email, my Instagram. I don't know. Feel free to contact me for everything. I hope it was a useful lesson somehow. And thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ciao, bye.
Ciao, grazie mille.